Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Graduate Student Spotlight. My guest today is Suveksha Jha. Ms. Jha is a master's student at the University of Georgia in the School of Forestry and Natural Resources. We had a wonderful conversation about her master's work integrating LiDAR data into growth and yield systems, which I think is going to be super important given that we are moving towards a fully remote sensed inventory. Again, we had a great conversation, and I hope you all enjoy it. And if you get a chance, if you're at the SOMENS and NEMO meeting in Knoxville in October, she'll be presenting her work there as well. So go and give her a listen. With that being said, please help me welcome Miss Suveksha Jha. Hey, Suveksha, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Mickey. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on. I've been following your work, since we've been talking for the past 6 months or so, and I really enjoy what you're doing. And I have to say, I'm really happy to have you here so that you can show everybody else what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we've been talking since month, and I really feel good to be part of the podcast. I have watched your other episodes. It's really fun conversation, so it's great to be here.
Yeah. Well, what I do here, I really just like to understand how people got where they are, why you enjoy, doing growth and yield and biometrics type work. So tell me a little bit, about your past, where you come from, and how you got into forestry.
Yeah, so I am from Nepal, a country surrounded with Himalaya, dense forest and rivers, and I was sure that I will study biology because most of my family members are in like medicine or pharmacy, something like that. So biology was sure, but I was not sure it's gonna be medicine or natural resources because these are the two things measured in Nepal for biology students. So I got full scholarship for my undergrad in forestry, and of course, I always like to go in forest because my father used to take us family trips in national parks or temples surrounded by forest. And because of that, inclination, I chose forestry and of course full scholarship also. And yeah, that's how I started my undergrad. And uh, in undergrad, I really liked the portion where I was working with GIS, remote sensing, stat forest management, and everything like which is quantitative analysis. And that's how I decided I will go abroad, which is states, of course, to study my higher education because again we get good scholarship in United States. So that was the motivation.
Yeah, that's really exciting. That you came here to study, and we're very happy to have you here because you're doing excellent work. But one of the things that you didn't mention and that I really like is that you were actually working more with wildlife in your undergrad. You did a bat study, correct?
Yes. So, one of the reason I chose forestry was it's very different than what I am doing right now. It was wildlife that attracted me for forestry first, and in Nepal, how it work, the forestry school is like everyone will be in same class, like 50 students, and when you will be in third year or sixth semester, you will start choosing specialization, like which courses or which subject you like more, and then develop your thesis on that in undergrad. So because I started liking wildlife, and that's how I was there, but my courses were like wildlife management, forest management, remote sensing, GIS. So then I started to have doubts that, okay, should I do wildlife or forestry management? Because I started to like code. And the very that semester, I learned R Studio also, which is not that common being in undergrad and learning coding in forestry in my country. But I'm very glad I learned that in my workshop. So it was, I wrote my grant proposal and for wildlife bats, and I got my funding. in undergrad. So I was like, anyway, have to do that research in bats. And the funny thing is, I did research during COVID, where everyone was told be away from bats, and I was working with bats, and it was behavioral study, so I had to be with bat. But that was fun also. And while analyzing data and everything I did in our studio, so that was a click that I like a more quantitative thing than wildlife or forest. Even in forest, I like quantitative skills.
Mhm.
And because of that, my shifted to this remote sensing and biometrics. That's how the change happened.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an exciting career path, and I don't see a lot of people that make that switch from wildlife into, tree growth and yield, forest growth and yield. And it's very interesting that happened. Like you said, not many undergrads are getting experience in coding. And so the fact that you already have that going into the master's, I'm sure was a big help for you in getting started.
Yes. So Alicia had this position open for master student, and only that was the reason, because I know coding. Otherwise I was in like bad, so I would say choose me. But because I was proficient in coding and GIS, not that expert in coding, but I knew our studio before that, so that helped me to get here at UZA Warnell School. So I'm glad that I took that workshop and I worked my data in our studio since then.
Yeah, I think the biggest learning curve in R is at the beginning. And once you figure out how to bring in data and manipulate data, then you generally can learn anything you need to do online. It's all, somebody's done something. So the community of R programmers is huge. So the fact that you can just go and Google, something similar to your problem, and you can probably find a solution for it. It's a great way to learn and improve. So but again, having that experience in the beginning gets you over kind of the hump, the learning curve, and then you're ready to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So that's how you chose Georgia, though, is that you had found that a position opening in Alicia's lab.
Yes, I found in job boards that she had this position open, and she was looking for someone immediately hired at that position. And I applied at very, because that was COVID year, right? Everything was very slow. And I just finished in 2021 December, and because I was writing thesis, so side by side I was doing this GRE and other thing what is needed to come in US. So I was like sure I would not go in this semester to US, because I just had everything exam in my hand, like GRE score or TOEFL for an international student. But eventually we had the interview, and she liked me, and she said, okay, you can apply to school now. So I came like 10 days late when school started here.
Mhm.
So it was crazy, but everything worked out, and I was lucky in immigration things also. So yeah, that's how I end up here.
Mhm. So tell me, what is the terrain? What is the climate like in Kathmandu? How does that compare versus Athens?
Kathmandu is really, really good according to weather. To be in Kathmandu is like you will not miss any weather. It's really nice. It's not cold, not like, of course it's cold for people compared to here in Athens, but it's good weather. We don't have fan, we don't have heater, that kind of weather. In Athens, it's pretty warm compared to Kathmandu,
Mhm.
but because I really like the fact Athens has lots of trees, green, and it's similar in Kathmandu Valley. Like Kathmandu Valley is surrounded with different mountains, small mountains, and it's a valley. It's a green place to be. So Athens is also similar, being a green city, but in summer it's very warm here compared to Kathmandu.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that for you was just the biggest change in terms of the climate, was just it becoming a little bit warmer than you're used to.
I will say that, but I was my hometown is in southern Nepal,
Mhm.
plain, which is like warm, 32 degrees Celsius to like near 40 degrees Celsius. So I was raised there, but I lived like 10 years in Kathmandu. So, adaptation was changed. But again, I am back here in Athens. So that switch was not that difficult because I had both experiences from my country. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're enjoying it, at least in Athens. You seem to like it a lot. Of course, everybody that I know that lives there seems to love it. I was fortunate to go a couple of times, and it seems like a wonderful, college town. I've heard it being called the center of the world to some biometricians. So
Yeah.
um, I wanted to ask you about your research and what you're doing there because you're working in Alicia's lab. You're doing a mix of traditional biometrics and remote sensing. So I just want to let you explain your project and start at the beginning and tell us how you got to where you are.
Yeah, so this position was since beginning. She explained me that I will be working in plantations, pine plantations here in US, and Nepal does not have plantations. That it's we have, but it's very less and not in this wide scale. We have natural forestry, so inventory system is also different again, right? And she said me that you will be working in plantation by immersing remote sensing in that. So that's an interesting thing. I really liked it. It will be blend of new thing for me. And then I came here in like first spring break. I went to collect data for my PhD lab mate in Florida, and that's the first time I saw like, oh, plantation can be this huge. It's like acres and acres of plantations, and I really like that I'm working in this setting. So how my research is doing is this co-op PMRC, Plantation Management Research Cooperative here at Warnell. My funding is from them. So we are trying to have lighter data, like our drone, and then previous year LiDAR data available to see if LiDAR heights is as good as field heights. So of course that's the already kind of set. Research has been showed that, but we haven't done in PMRC sites yet. So my research is basically seeing if flying LiDAR will be good for PMRC plots,
Mhm.
and then eventually to the industries, whoever will use that research in their work.
And how do you feel they compare? I know your results aren't published yet, but is there anything you can share with us?
Yeah, so I had, because in LiDAR also there are so many ways you can extract data because it's a vertical data, right? So there are so many algorithms, so many ways like plot level or individual stand level. Again, in plot level, which algorithm or which method you are choosing. So that's what my first chapter is all about. We are comparing first if LiDAR and forest heights, tree heights are same or different, and if yes, which method of LiDAR, either like canopy height or LiDAR metrics or the pixel metrics, which is best for my research plot areas. So we are doing that comparison also, and then I'm working at individual tree delineation also, but the freely available algorithms of individual tree detections are not that great enough. So yeah, but I'm sure there will be another algorithms which is in paid version right now. But yeah, but there is good results in individual tree detection also, with not being that great also algorithm, but still it's doing great. So let's see. I am near in finish to publish that paper. So hopefully it will be out soon.
Yeah. Well, for the people that have been following along, uh, we have had conversations with Carl Wigren from Sweden and Mike Strube, former biometrician of Weyerhaeuser, about using LiDAR for individual tree metrics. One of them could be to predict height and predict change in height for getting essentially a site index on each individual tree. Now, with your work, do you feel like with the technology we have now that we're in a place that we could actually do that, or it's still going to take some time?
I think it is possible because how LiDAR work is it will have heights for each individual trees in field, right? And anyway, we go in field and measure diameter for the each trees when we establish plot and height for the dominant or codominant, whatever research demands. But if we will have LiDAR and the data of each individual height trees, and then we have from field the diameter or from the terrestrial LiDAR diameter, then it is possible, of course. And like I said before, the freely available algorithms is not that great, and there is other issues also, like geo coordinates of the trees, like GPS system is still not that great when you go and measure tree like coordinates of trees in forest.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with progress in this technology, it should be very soon that we should have that site index for each individual tree would be developed. Of course, I think it's very soon. It should be.
One of the things that so you're working with permanent research plots from the PMRC and using those kind of data, but the natural extension to this is going to be using this type of technology in operational forest inventory. So in that sense, we might not necessarily have a geolocation of every tree. We might not have, in some cases, we don't even want to have people on the ground. We might just want to have some fully remotely sensed inventory. Do you think that we could are getting towards that with your kind of work or your experience, or do you think we're still a little bit of a ways away from that?
Yes, so of course, and that first thing that you said, we don't have GPS of every tree in this permanent plot, and that is the case I am having with PMRC plots also right now.
Mhm.
And yeah, I spent my summer figuring it out how we can delineate individual trees for which we don't have ground location points. It's very like a task where you don't have ground truth, for example, right?
Right.
So there are algorithms, and uh, from field we have this data that how many trees are in that plot, right? The
Mhm.
TPA, we have that. So I used like 3 or 4 algorithms, whatever there is available, and then that's how I am choosing the best estimates of the individual trees from the algorithms.
Mhm.
But saying again, the way you said, if it is possible, if we will never go to field and we will have that, being a master's student in remote sensing, I cannot say that big statement right now.
Mhm.
But according to my best of knowledge, it's not gonna be like forever. You don't have to go in field for every. I think, and it's necessary also to go and see how is your field and plots are, because datas are just number. You need to have real scenario also to go in field and see how trees or like plots or whatever things are there. So it should be a blend of both. I will not say it should be like entire remote sensing, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I have the same feeling as you do. I think it is going to be a blend of both. I do have a feeling that we will do fully remotely sensed inventory in places where maybe it's impossible to send people.
Mm-hmm.
But for the time being, I think we're generally going to have the solution is going to be a mix of the two, of having some aerial based LiDAR with some ground based, if it's LiDAR, if it's remotely sensed, or if it's actually just having people down there measuring the actual trees. So, yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like you do.
Yeah.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you about, and that I know, is that so with LiDAR and when you're estimating tree height from LiDAR, however many signal returns you're getting can depend on the quality, but also you're never going to be able to pinpoint the exact top of the tree. Well, I say never, but with a very low probability will you actually get a laser return that hits the very tip top of the tree, correct?
John, I don't think so because so it depends on the filtering process also.
Mm,
Just imagine LiDAR is something, the points will come with whatever it's gonna hit to the
right.
tree. And I'm working in pine plantations, and I don't know of natural forest examples, right? Because I haven't worked there. But for pine plantations, it's because it's like in a cone form, it's kind of achievable that we will have the treetops. And I have seen with my, like, you can display your point cloud in cloud compare, and you can see that tree in points in the trees form entire. And because plantations are not that densely undergrowth vegetation, also some of course are in Florida and the forest I've been here, in plantations I've been here. But saying that also, it's not that crazy level of undergrowth vegetation or something. So my point clouds is pretty clean and nice enough that I can see treetops.
Hmm.
But yeah, it depends on the what forest you are also working.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about in pine plantation, but I just think if you're, if you're getting 8 returns per square meter, the likelihood of you hitting all of the treetops in that square meter, or if it's just one treetop, you're likely going to hit somewhere lower down on the tree, a branch or something, than the exact top. And so
Yeah.
LiDAR, you'll generally never overestimate tree height, but for the majority of the time, you will underestimate the total tree height because you don't always hit the exact top of the tree.
Mm-hmm. Yes, with ALS, like airborne lidar, I am sure like the way you are saying is right.
Hmm.
But with this now drones,
Hmm.
because we are flying very closely, right?
Hmm.
So it's like very lots of point density you can get. Like it's, I think mine UAV is like in a meter, it's 400 something point return.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes. So with that, I can see my, like I said, my plots are very nice. Like I can see the tree structure very nicely,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I think with increasing use of drones, and it's getting cheaper, right? With the available, it's not that cheap, but but it's getting like accessible. I will say that's the word.
Yeah.
So with increasing, and that's the also again another comparison of my study, because I have both airborne lidar from USGS and I have my UAV lidar that we flew this year.
Hmm.
So it's that comparison also again, that how the point density will also make an impact with UAV and airborne.
Yeah, I guess I haven't thought about that because using the UAV, like you said, you're getting a lot more signal returns. I'm generally used to having some airborne, so something attached to an airplane versus
Yes.
where you get much less signal returns, which I think I'm working consulting now, so I'm generally thinking about how to apply this to very wide areas, not just small plots. So um, it might not be as realistic if you're trying to do this operationally to have 400 returns per square meter over 50,000 acres, for example.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna like it's gonna depend again the way you will establish your equations prediction and the way you will do, because I know my PhD is working and his plot size is like, I think 30 by 30 or more than that,
Mhm.
so that they can upscale it later. That's
Mhm.
maybe his research, I'm sure. So because the way UAVs are increasing use, so I'm sure there will be a way we can upscale our plot level to the like acres that you are saying. Or who knows, in airborne also we will have very like robust scan
Mhm.
lidar sensors, right? Because it's growing, this industry is growing, so we never know what's gonna be there.
Yeah, nowadays we're just fighting Roomba vacuums and the
Yeah.
craziest little things for sensors. Yeah, the technology is definitely growing. It's exciting to see you working on it and what you're doing, because it's that kind of research that is going to lead to the operational product, right?
Hmm.
Um, what did you what were some of the like major hurdles that you had in this research? Were you, if it was getting out to the field, establishing the points, like what was it that you found to be just a little bit complicated, but that you were able to overcome?
Yeah, that's nice. You asked that question. I can say, um, it's first of all is people are not that much comfortable with drones being around. That's the one major thing I will say you. And it's quite challenging to go and field and fly drone, because some people will be like, why are you flying in our region, if they would not know. That's the one major thing to experience in field with my drone pilot. And the second thing was my this study we had this hypothesis that we want to do projections of growth and yield model. So because of that, I had to have this old LiDAR set data set available in PMRC's plot, right? So to find out in Earth Explorer, like LiDAR, USGS LiDAR Explorer, to the plots if they have the past year data. That was really quite a, like, it took one whole summer for me when I started initially in 2022 to find out those sets, because I had to extract like as many as plots they have past year LiDAR data. So that was again a good task to find out. And then once, like everyone knows, LiDAR data is quite very big, huge amount of data set to work with. So ALS, like airborne, is still not that much, huge data set. But when you are working with UAV, which has like I said, 400 points in a meter or some very small area, so it's a huge LiDAR data set. So, and I had to work on that, and my computer was not comfortable with that data set, so I had to learn Linux programming so I can work in supercomputer here in UZA in this summer. So that was also a good exercise to learn Linux programming. We being in forestry, we are not that much, into coding and then learning all those heavy like R and Python is what we are doing mostly. But it was good to learn those things also. So the major thing was dealing with the huge data set.
If you had to, so we're still talking about your first project, we're going to get on to the other projects, but if you had to give yourself some advice from a year ago when you started, or a year and a half ago when you started, what would you advise yourself?
uh, of like how to do my data analysis
Right.
or
So you're just, you're coming to the US to live for the first time. You're going to start a master's project. You're very excited, but you don't know, what's coming up. Would you have some advice that you could give yourself? And the point being that this might be applicable to other people who are coming in,
uh
for the first.
yes, yeah. So I know like many internationals or even here in US, people are kind of attracted to this quantitative analysis with remote sensing or biometrics, right?
Mhm.
So, but I think not all, but many people choose forestry or natural resources thinking that it's gonna be, like relaxed kind of feel. You will go and enjoy nature and all those things, right? But at the same time, now the thing is, this field is going to be very much quantitative based and very strong stat or remote sensing or coding. So I have my a lots of juniors, younger people who are trying to come here at US or do this kind of research. So for them and for me, both, it's like it's gonna take time to blend in, and it's gonna take lots of effort and continuous trying. Like being a graduate student is not only 20 hours or 40 hours a week you will work. It's like nonstop work. And that's a fun also. Like this is the age, and being a grad student is a time you want to learn more things. You want to learn a lot of things, whatever you don't know, whatever there it is. So yeah, just be ready and open to work and enjoy your work.
Yeah. I I feel like the undergrad was very important to teach you how to be a professional, and you definitely learn a lot about your field, and it gets you set up for that first job. But I really, you become very focused. the main idea is to teach you how to be self-taught and self-learn, so that whenever you're else, you don't come with the, oh, I don't know anything about this. You come with the, oh, I'm excited because I get to learn all of it and I get to teach myself that next step. And I think that's a very important process that you need to go through as a master's student, just to learn how to learn, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, because like you said, I was in wildlife person. I was focused in wildlife. But when I came here, only thing I know was code. And I didn't know how the forest plantations in US work. I still have to learn a lot of that, of course, and this remote sensing things, typical how it's work. And then in my very first semester, I was taking class of LiDAR and then precision silviculture with Christian, and it was really heavy coding and everything, like precision silviculture or R, and then with Alicia it was LiDAR class. So in my first week, I was like overwhelmed. Oh man, I'm doing something I know nothing in this. But I took time in that weekend, I remember, and then I said myself, well, that's why you are here for. You don't know these things and you want to learn these things. You wanted to learn advanced forestry. That's why you left your country and you are here in States. So give it a time and you will learn. And Alicia is really great mentor. She will coach you like that. Like you don't know, but it's okay. You can learn.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how my progress was. It's like being that.
Yeah, and every grad student complains about the level of work that we had to do in grad school, but it's also, I mean, it's, some people consider it a rite of passage, but it's just, this is the time that you have, like you said, this is the time that you have to learn that. That's what you're there for. And putting in that time and that work is going to lead to a successful career. It's going to set you up to be self-efficient and productive.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think that's great advice for somebody starting out. That I wish somebody would have said similar things to me, and hopefully for people interested in studying in remote sensing and biometrics, hopefully they can take something away from that. Now, I want to move on to your second topic, which is your title was assessing optimal LiDAR derived tree height methods for enhancing forest growth and yield models. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is the project like work I did in this summer, and I mentioned you before also. Here I was looking to all the methods because first we just compare like in a plot level if LiDAR heights and then field height makes sense together or not as an alternative. And then because there are so many methods available in literature of extracting LiDAR heights, because LiDAR been there for like years now,
Mhm.
because of now more available sensors in UAV and everything, it's increasing very much. But the research has been from since old days, right?
Mhm.
So this objective was seeing all the methods that are available, and we can you can use in plantations and see which is the best method to use that in our field, in plots, in plantations.
Mhm.
So I had multiple comparison within LiDAR methods also, and then I would report, okay, this is the best method for plantations, pine plantations of my plots. So, and I worked in individual trees segmentation, and my plots were without true coordinates. So
Mhm.
it was a good work, manual and then coding both. And we had some result developed, and I presented that in PMRC's annual meeting as well. So, and yeah, it's a very good comparison.
Mhm. Is there any of the results that you can share with us?
Um, Results is like, so there is basically two major methods of extracting heights from LiDAR methodology. One is like raster based, and another is metrics, LiDAR metrics based.
Mhm.
Um, and I think the blend of both raster and metrics based, which is something available there, but people are not doing that. and I had to write a very long code to extract in that way. So it will have both properties of how LiDAR metrics works plus raster form. So
Mhm.
I think that is a good method to do that. Um, so, and I still have to test in other plots also, because I have like more than 80 or 90 plots. And again, it's like airborne and UAV, both data, lots
Mhm.
of data. So that's the like preliminary result right now.
Mhm.
And yes, yeah.
So you're connecting both aerial and terrestrial LiDAR?
No, I have, like when I say this ALS, it's airborne LiDAR, which is scanner on plane, like you said,
Right.
sensor on plane, and UAV is
Yeah.
drone sensor.
So
Both is air.
you're
Yeah.
connecting UAV to ALS.
Yes, I am comparing, like you said, the point density
Mm.
things also matter, right? So
Right.
that is also again another comparison of my study, that if what is the point density plays role here? Because like you said, in less point density, we cannot find tree heights always,
Mhm.
right? So we are comparing that also with UAV and airborne LiDAR.
Mhm. That's interesting. I think I think one of the problems that we have in uh, in consulting and industry is whenever we want to do projections at a stand level, is that we can have quite a lot of variability across a given stand. While we might manage a stand as a unit, however size that might be, there could be a significant amount of variation depending on water levels, depending on soil types, terrain, whatever. um, I find it very interesting to be able to use ALS or UAVs to uh, come up with some kind of site index maps. And one of the things that Mike Strube mentioned on his episode of the podcast was even going down to an individual tree site index, which is, of course, if you're having millions of trees on a property, can be quite a lot of information. But I'm curious your thoughts on, since you've compared both ALS and UAVs, um, basically the point density, if you think that developing some kind of site index maps through ALS would it be good enough, or do you think UAVs would be necessary for that?
So I think it depends upon the, like, the plantations plot also, like where you are doing it, right? If you are doing in dense natural forest, then you have to have lots of information. But if you're doing plantations, and our plantations, it's pretty managed, right?
Yeah.
And so how previous years ALS available in USGS LiDAR is like, they have a data set with like very less point density, 1 or 2 points in a meter, or there are point densities, like I have the highest point density from airborne ALS is like 44. To like, I have lowest 1 meter and the highest point density is like 44 points per meter square. So we should, because of course, like you said, it's not possible to fly UAV in that huge area, so we have to come out with a method which will be efficient, right? So
Mhm.
maybe we will find the optimum point density which will be good enough, to have that site index map, and like cutting down to the point, because we don't need 400 point density as well, right? We don't need that much details. We
Right.
don't want to detect animals in forest. We just need tree heights and then site index map.
Mm.
So we can find out the optimum, like best point density which will be good enough, and then we can integrate that, and then maybe we will do that site index mapping, and that will be a because UAV data will be very heavy data set with that much point density. So if we will thin the point density also,
Mhm.
our file size will also decrease, and then if it will be efficient also to work. So that is another, my work is, if I, because I'm a master's student and I really want to do a lot of stuff,
Mm.
but we wanted to have at some point that which is the best point density also, like minimum point density to extract these informations.
Right.
It will be very good to know that. level of point density.
So is it possible, since you have this UAV data with, you said like 400 returns per
Mhm.
square meter, is it possible to sample from that data set so that you can say, okay, now I want to see what it looks like with only a 300 point density or a 200,
Yes,
random
yes.
sample from that and then compare?
We have algorithms already developed in LiDAR where you can thin your point density, like decrease your point density and check compared to ALS or whatever, like lowest point densities. And there have been research done also before also of this kind of. So yeah, there is already developed algorithm. Like I said, like LiDAR is developed since so many
Mhm.
years, but because it's not been in that now, it's the sensor is available throughout. So it's in more you like people are using and researching more, but there are algorithms already developed since like very back in time, and we have that filtering algorithm in our studio already. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Are you familiar with any of the like iPhone apps that are used that have LiDAR sensor, that are you making use of the LiDAR sensor on the iPhone? Are you familiar with any of that?
iPhone, yeah, we have like LiDAR sensor, LiDAR in iPhone, right? So I haven't worked with that particular thing, but I know my PhD lab mate, he has worked in that, and he had comparison of the, I think, diameter and all those things in iPhone. So yeah, uh,
There's a company, I believe their app is called Boreal. They're out of Sweden, and this app that you can get, I think it only works on the iPhone, but it will actually do stem mapping. It will get the diameters and upper stem diameters, and it even has it uses the LiDAR sensor to, get your location. You show it where the center of the plot is, and then you know, you can collect all of the information around the plot using that app. And I've seen it. It looks really interesting. My, I guess, question would then be able to, would you then be able to connect that to some kind of LiDAR based, inventory or tree heights or whatever? Um, but yeah, so that's out there for people that are interested in checking it out. I would go look at it. I think it's a very reasonable price for the app for if people just want to try it. Yeah.
yeah, there are. I don't know about stem mapping, but there are apps where you can convert your like data from LiDAR from iPhone to freely available to LAS,
Yeah.
not the mapping. You have to do your work yourself
Right.
back in coding now. So, and I think my another PhD student Katrina, she is also trying to work with iPads and then want to
Mhm.
scan with LiDAR too, because she is working in urban forestry. So she is doing that thing. That is also interesting to see.
Yeah. The work that has been done to develop these applications just for the cell phone to do this kind of stuff has been amazing. I really enjoy the apps for identifying species because
Yes.
I mostly work in plantations. So if you want to tell me loblolly / longleaf pine, I can get them every day. But there are so many species out there that I just don't know, and so it's nice. My wife always asks me, "What is that tree?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's what it is."
And it's really helpful for us being an international because we don't really know the species
Yeah,
thing. And people think like my friends, they think if I am in forestry, I know every species of trees. It's a lot to know, right? So
right.
yeah, those app is really nice to know.
Yeah. And when I went to work in Norway, they had like three species. It was a spruce, a pine, and a hardwood, and that was basically it. So it was super
Oh,
easy to get to know those species there. Of course, they had other species, but
okay.
those three species made up like 80% of all of the trees in Norway, something like that. Somebody can correct me if that's wrong, but I believe that's how it was. So moving back to the south, and I'm working actually a lot with different hardwood species now. I'm having to get to know a lot of species that I just never had experience with. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. Knowing new things.
Yeah. So the next part of your masters that you're, I assume, are just now getting started on is integrating this LiDAR inventory into growth and yield models.
Yes. So eventually a bigger objective of study is that uh, since you will have lighter heights, because we know in growth and yield models, most of the models, the major two component is diameter and height, and then eventually other uh, predictors comes in play. But it's like diameter we are good, but in height there is so much of bias. Personally, for me also, whenever I go in field and I do with that hypsometer, I never feel like comfortable. Have I reported the right height by doing myself, right? So once we will have this personal human bias free heights, which is from LiDAR, right? Of course, LiDAR also has error, but the it's a systematic error, like machine error, more not the human error. So once we will have that height in our growth and yield model, and then we will project our models, would it be like good just like our heights? Because right now we are assuming, because we don't have this destructive sampling, so and whatever we have on field, that's the true height we are using, right? That is what being used. So if LiDAR will be like that, so of course switching to that would be fine. And that's what I'm doing now, is extracting my lighter heights and projecting that using a PMRC 96 model for projections. So it will be very interesting result, and have finally started doing that.
Mm.
So I will have volume, the volume is very essential for industries, and I am interested in biomass and carbon also, because it's really in talk now. So we will be doing that also if possible. And again, there is time factor being a master's student, but I will be interested doing this even if, after I will graduate, because it's something I have spent so much time to extract my LiDAR data from that. So it will be very interesting, and I would like to do to compare these results.
Hmm. Yeah, the I think the hot topic of the day being biomass and carbon, as you just mentioned, it makes it very important to, if we're going to use some LiDAR based metric, that we get that right and the projections correct. I think right now, especially, I mean, you're using PMRC, but for carbon inventories, generally people are using FVS.
FES.
I think there are some markets now that allow you to use something that's not just FVS, but for probably a generalization, it's easy to say that FVS is the main one. Um, and so to be able to and you can run FVS with something as minimal as DBH. You don't even need tree heights.
Hmm.
But to be able to include those tree heights, I think would be very important, because otherwise you're just predicting from some model from somewhere. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens from your work. Another thing that I deal with on a daily basis is, how do we project from an inventory? Well, we're relying heavily on side index. And what is side index? We know a specific definition of what it means, but where does it come from in any given data set? And can you separate that from, is that the natural side, or is it improved side, or where does it come from? And being able to nail that accurately is important, because otherwise all of your projections are just wrong, and the longer you project, the longer they are, the more error that they accumulate, and the more wrong they are. So
Yeah. Yeah. The interesting thing to learn with, like you mentioned, the site uncertainty, right? With the we if the projection is gonna be bigger, there is more uncertainty, and that is really nice study to do also, because I know there is already lots of study being done, and to report that error and how to reduce that error would be, and if we nail it, of course it's gonna be really good product.
right. So uh, I know you're just getting started, but do you have any glimpse of, what the results might be? Do you have any premonition?
No, because I have just finished with that height comparison of individual and that, and then I have to submit thesis also very soon. So it's side by side doing, like I am writing also, and then whenever I have time, I will do this coding to project also.
Mm,
So I am in very like start of getting those. I have I think projected heights right now, because soon I will go into the volume equations, and then I am still, maybe I will have some product in Somens, or I don't know, but I will try to have some.
Were you were you choosing the PMRC 96 equations because they're now publicly available?
Yes, because people have to see, right, what equations I have used in everything, and I think that that should be the one I should using, and yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious because I know they have newer equations, but maybe you're not
Yes,
able
they
to
do.
put that into a publication.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. I just want to. So I know that you're looking for work. You're looking for positions now, and I'm just curious. Like what if you could explain to me a little bit, like what you think you might do. And I want to say this because you have a very unique position of integrating remote sensing and LiDAR into growth and yield. And so there are more people working on that, but it's not something that was traditionally a product of a biometrics degree. And so I'm just curious about what would the perfect job be like for you, and what do you think you would like to do?
Yeah, like you said, my work is like very much in between of remote sensing and then biometrics. I'm not so much of biometrics and not like so much of remote sensing. And because of that, also, I want to go and start working before I start for my PhD, my higher studies. It's like see what qualification I have gained and what qualification should I have from work again.
Mhm.
So for me, the ideal position is, it's not good. I have not fixed like this is what I want to work, because I want to be flexible, right?
Mm,
So I would like to be in position where I will be dealing with data analysis. I
mm,
will be coding also, and quantitative analysis, remote sensing, biometrics, like the blend. It
mm,
will be the perfect position for me, because I don't want to be doing just biometrics coding or just remote sensing. I
mm,
want both because I enjoy both of them together. And I'm sure there will be positions which they want like GIS person or remote sensing person, and they want, if it's having both qualification in a person, it's, I think it's a good to be in that position.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very exciting the work that you're doing, and I think we are very fortunate that you came to Georgia to study, and that we can have you at least in the South for a little bit, and hopefully for a little bit longer. But I have a feeling that wherever you go, you're going to do an amazing job. So, really fortunate to have you on the podcast today. I really enjoyed it, and I just wish you the best of the luck in your future.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for having me. And I feel I was also fortunate to be in such a good school. Warnell School is very good. And with mentor like Alicia, Christian Bronson, right? So it's really good to be in this university, and this co-op setting, which I was part of, to work together and see how industries are also working. That's how I know this industry and biometrics parts also. So
Mm.
it's really been a very good place and study place I am. And having in podcast with you, it's like I was watching your podcast and listening a lot, and it's really good to be talking here. So thank you for the opportunity.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. And if you're looking for an amazing remote sensing biometrician, give Suveksha a shout out on LinkedIn. Thank you, everybody. Bye.